And according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there are no fewer than 5,600 Nigerians living in Ukraine. Since Russia's invasion, many of them have attempted to flee west of the country and cross the border into neighboring states in search of safety. Others haven't been able to leave the certain region of Ukraine due to intense attacks where there are no access to transportation. In this report, Arise correspondent Leila Johnson-Salami speaks to Nigerians trapped in Ukraine about their experience.
As Russia's attack on Ukraine intensifies, many Nigerians are attempting to flee west of the country in search of safety. Thousands of Nigerians studying and working in Ukraine are currently stranded, some with no means of transportation and no way of getting to a safe border. A few citizens caught in the middle of this large-scale military attack spoke on their distressing experience over the past few days.
We just want to move away from where it's like very hot right now. At least we just want to get to somewhere that, even if things are going on there, it's not like as much as the capital city, basically. Just to at least hide our heads for some time before we try to move again. We just have food here, basically. Basic things that we need to get by for a few days. We're going in multiple numbers, right? We're trying to get as much people that we can, to get out of here together.
Dami left Kiev for the west of Ukraine with about 20 other Nigerians. Unsure of exactly where she was going, the idea was simply to head as far west as possible. This is a journey that several Nigerians have taken over the past few days, with most attempting to cross borders and leave Ukraine. But there have been reports of Nigerians and other Africans being denied entry, particularly into Poland, with the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirming that Nigerians have faced issues crossing borders. It is now advised that Nigerians cross into Hungary or Romania, and some citizens have reportedly been able to do so. Dami is currently at the Romanian border attempting to cross over, but feels more initial support could have been given to Nigerians in the country.
This was going to come up ever since. They didn't make any plans. They didn't have a sit down. They didn't even put it in the news. They didn't even talk about it to allow us to know that they're doing something, because obviously they did not care. But they didn't care until when we started going on Twitter and talking about it, or when people from here were calling the embassy. And that was when they decided that, let's do something. Let's try to evacuate them when the airspaces are not working.
Some Nigerians can't leave certain parts of the country. A medical student living in the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy, a region that's just 60 kilometers away from the Russian border, spoke to me under the condition of anonymity. Preparing for the worst, she and her sister booked flights to leave Nigeria and tried to leave before the invasion, but it was too late. Sumy is reportedly heavily affected by the fierce fighting, and like many Nigerians who live there, she simply has no way out.
Generally, the reason why we were not able to leave in the first place was because we're in school, so we can't up and go home because we have to attend classes as well. So we were waiting for information from school, and when we finally got it, all we got was they told us not to panic and that school would continue. We had to go to classes normally. So there was no way for us to just go home, because here, in Ukraine generally, not just in my school, if you miss classes or you don't attend lectures, you're going to have to make up for it. You're going to have to make up for it. And if you are not able to make up for it, it can get you expelled for school. And another reason why we're not able to leave was because it was closer to the time that this war kept aggravating and everything. People were trying to book their flight tickets, and the prices were extremely high. Obviously, not everyone is going to be able to pay for the flight tickets immediately. Yeah, so we couldn't leave because the buses were not working. There were no cabs picking people. So there was no way for us to go. And then later on, we kept seeing people in other cities saying that there were bombings in their cities, and everyone just had to find somewhere safe to go at that moment.
As the invasion continues, several Nigerians in Ukraine are left in fear. facing a horrifying reality. Not only is there a battle to stay alive, but also against the alleged secondary treatment of Nigerian citizens trying to get to safety. Many simply have nowhere to go, and with limited options available, it is hard to plan or question what happens next. Right now, not much is clear. The only mission is to survive. Layla Johnson Salami, Arise News.
Meanwhile, the U.S. is expelling 12 diplomats at the Russian UN mission for undiplomatic activities. It came on the 5th day of Russia's invasion of neighboring Ukraine, which has sparked condemnation from dozens of countries. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says it is something that has been in the works for months. Meanwhile, the Russian ambassador Vasily Nebenzia said it is a gross violation of UN agreement with the U.S.
Today's action has been in the works for several months. The United States informed the United Nations and the Russian mission to the United Nations that we were beginning the process of expelling 12 intelligence operatives from the Russian mission who had abused their privileges of residency in the United States by engaging in espionage activities that are adverse to our national security. So it takes some time to make those evaluations, and that, again, those actions were in the works for a month.
Just received information that the U.S. Authorities have undertaken another hostile action against the Russian mission to the United Nations, grossly violating their commitments on the host country agreement that they undertook, telling us that they are announcing 12 people from the personnel of the Russian mission, persona non grata, and demanding that they will leave by the 7th of March.
UN diplomats?
Yes, UN diplomats. UN diplomats. They just visited the Russian mission and gave us a note prescribing us to do what they demand. You know that we were raising with the Secretary General the issue of the arbitrage with the host country, which grossly violates its commitments on the host country agreement. So far, it has not been done, but I think it's high time already. This is just hot news that arrived at my attention right away. That's why I took the phone. Sorry?
12 diplomats?
12 diplomats, yes.
Do you know who they are?
Sorry?
Who are they, and who's the most senior?
I don't know the names yet, but the number is 12.
And
Nobody in this room.
Sorry?
Nobody in this room, I hope.
None of you, at least. Coming back, this is sad news, and again another demonstration of gross disrespect of the host country agreement to their commitments, as I said, within the framework of their obligations both under the UN Charter and the host country agreement, and Vienna Conventions, obviously. So coming back to Ukraine, I said that.
sorry, can we just ask one more thing? Did they give a reason?
Sorry?
What was their reason?
I don't know yet. I haven't seen the note. We will give you updates as soon as we have more information.
Right. Now the time to talk about a lot of things. Layla's report first, and Americans prevailing over some Russian diplomats in the UN.
Well, thanks to Layla for that report. We all do want to know how our Nigerian students especially are faring under the most appalling circumstances. I did see a report of one Nigerian woman being allowed on a train out of Kiev, and I think that is just because she was lucky. Maybe she met with people who have a more humane face to the situation. But obviously, Nigerian men would have problems leaving, because apparently to get any man on a train now is a problem. That's leaving the cities. With regards to the border, anybody who makes it to the border should be allowed passage. Otherwise, I'm sorry, now we're talking about Vladimir Putin committing war crimes by attacking civilians. I'm not sure it does not constitute a war crime if you are a border official and you're stopping people from passing in a war. It's completely wrong. It's a disgrace, and that fact cannot be overstated. People were told to stay put once the invasion has started. Stay put, find a basement, and stay there, because Russia was saying they'll only attack military bases, but we have seen quite clearly that that is just simply not the case. People cannot stay put. well, if you do, you're taking your life in your own hands. And then you're also taking your own life in your own hands if you try to make it to the border, if you try and get on a train. The options are all completely unappealing. I'm sure you heard about the story of 3 children being incinerated alive in a car. Clearly, they were trying to escape. So the situation is actually getting worse. The sanctions are not kicking in quite yet, the way one would have hoped. And in typical fashion, it's your average Russian that's suffering. And Vladimir Putin is completely unmoved by the sanctions. This is a complete tragedy that we're watching unfold. With regards to the diplomatic story of the Russian diplomats being expelled for espionage activities, it's been reported that that has been in the offing for a few months and is not related to this case. But even if it is related to this case, America has a precedent. They've done it before. They expelled the Syrian diplomat, the top Syrian diplomat in Washington at the time. He was expelled from the country because of this atrocity that happened in Syria, a town called Hula. There was a massacre of over 100 people, and he was expelled. The UK, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, most of the Western powers expelled their Syrian ambassador as well because they were killing civilians in their country. So Article 9 of the Vienna
Convention.
Yes, not convention, it's called a diplomatic treaty for diplomatic relations of 1961, does say that a host nation can, without even giving a reason, declare an official in a mission, or even the head of a mission, persona non grata, and ask their country to either withdraw him or remove him from their mission.
Dr. Bati?
No, I would like to listen to you first.
So there are a lot of things that are happening. The war is taking a new dimension. It was only yesterday there were strong allegations made about Russia using cluster bombs. We all know the convention, the Dublin Convention, as regards use of cluster munitions, which over 100 countries have signed and ratified. I mean, some countries that have not ratified, Nigeria includes part of those countries, have not ratified that. And once that is used, it takes a whole new dimension. The dimension is the fact that then you have to push for bigger sanctions and you have to hold Russia accountable at this point in time. In fact, it was said that in the city of Kharkiv, cluster bombs were used. Cluster bombs, little sprintlets of bombs put in a big cluster. Once it comes down, it produces more chain reaction and more bombing and things like that. So that's one part of it. Turkey too has also waded in strongly. Turkey is, citing, I think the Montreal Agreement of the early 1900s, saying that they're going to close their Bosphorus Straits since they are not the aggressor, they're not part of the war, to warships to be able to bring up some form of de-escalation. Zelensky was calling for a no-fly zone yesterday. They also had the talks. The first set of talks started, talks started yesterday pretty much, between the Russian reps and the Ukrainian reps. But nothing concrete came out of those talks. Bombardment continued big time. The scale of the war has changed. Russia promised it was not going to be attacking civilians, but now they're attacking civilians, actually. It's a firefight going out there in Kharkiv and some other cities in Russia. They're targeting civilians full throttle now. It's free-for-all. There were all the other surveillance report that shows like a big convoy of Russian tanks and the likes and military equipment and heavy artillery moving north into Ukraine. What does all of this show? It is getting out of hand. The ICC has said they are going to investigate Putin. I think the best time to do it is now, but a lot of people also call out the hypocrisy of the ICC and say, how about we start by investigating a certain George Bush and a certain Tony Blair, for war crimes.
Lying.
Yeah.
There were no weapons of mass destruction.
And there were no weapons of mass destruction, and they use it as a pretext to invade. So how about by starting to investigate those people? That's going on. But one thing is certain in all of this. The best bet now will be a ceasefire, because this has gone out of hand. And for me, the sad part is once cluster bombs are being used, you cannot stop the ripple effect. Also, Putin has put up his nuclear deterrent. They are on high alert now. Any time from now, it could go south. It could go chitty, bang, bang. Please, let us calm things down at this point in time. No more bloodshed.
Okay, let me start from the Nigerian end, which is something that is very important to us, and which is a subject that I wrote on today in the back page of This Day, the Nigerian newspaper. And my argument is as follows, that yes, the Nigerian government is making a last-minute attempt to rescue our people who are out there. The frustration of Nigerians, as indicated in the report by Leila Johnson Salami is well indicated. Okay? Now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs went to the House of Reps and met with the representatives. And there was some agreement that this week, by tomorrow, Wednesday, that about 2,000, Nigerians will be evacuated from the war zone using Romania as a hub. And we're told that there are about 1,000 Nigerians in Romania, about 250 in Poland, about 250 in Hungary, about 250 in Slovenia. Well, I think we can say confidently that it is good to see that the Nigerian government has woken up to address the citizen diplomacy side of it. But the minister also made certain very cogent remarks. He said, for example, that look, when Nigerians travel abroad and they get into trouble, like the ones that went for World Cup in Russia, they should have their own arrangements to come back home. He made that point, and I think it's an important point. Many families had evacuated their children, others could not evacuate their children. So there is also the element of personal responsibility in this matter. We have also been told that Air Peace and Air Max are also involved in this evacuation process, and that the president of Nigeria has made resources available. He has done the necessary approvals to make sure that Nigerians who are in distress are evacuated. At the same time, the minister made the point before the House of Representatives that, look, there are Nigerians who don't want to leave, who say they don't want to go. Because there are parts of Ukraine where you have Nigerians, a place called Sumy. There's a university in a place called Sumy, where the authorities have provided, some kind of protection. And the students say, no, it's better to stay here rather than going to the border, where we have seen, as we discussed yesterday, a lot of racism, a lot of frustration. But it is good to see the Nigerian government waking up. The minister said, oh, we are convinced that, it came as a surprise. No, that's not the thing to say. I think the minister is wrong in that regard. He shouldn't talk like that. There was open intelligence with regard to the situation in Russia and Ukraine. Okay? For him to now say, oh, the embassy in Kiev did very well. No, the embassy in Kiev did not do very well. Somebody should remind Geoffrey Onyema of that. But it is good to see that there is now some kind of collaboration between the National Assembly, the House of Representatives specifically, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to move the frontiers of citizen diplomacy, and that our citizens that are trapped in that war, that they will get some help from every direction. Now, another thing that came up in that conversation was, this point about how Nigeria is engaging with the Ukrainian authorities, the Russian authorities. That's fine. I don't think we're a big player in this particular matter. Whatever can be done to bring back Nigerians that are stranded there will be perfectly in order. As for the latest developments, yes, Ukraine says it wants to join the EU. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU Commission, is not enthusiastic about that. The best that she has said is that there are procedures to be followed. Exactly. And those procedures take time. Exactly. Okay? So you can see desperation on the part of Ukraine. So that's not going to happen overnight. The US is still blowing hot and cold and all of that. So whatever negotiation took place at the Belarusian border yesterday, even Ukraine does not believe in it. Zelensky is saying that he does not expect much from it. But the bigger question that we all face, the bigger challenge that we all face, is the humanitarian challenge, the refugee crisis that the entire world faces in that axis, in Moldova, in Romania, in Poland, in all those, Hungary. In Belarus, in Hungary, all those adjoining countries. And my argument today, in this day, is that, look, at the end of the day, beyond the sanctions, even Shell is saying we are divesting from Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Football, federations have said we will not have anything to do with Russia. But I think what is more important is how we measure this in human costs, which was where Tundu started this conversation from. The humanitarian crisis, the effect on human beings, the people who have been displaced, the people who will lose their lives, the agony that all of us will feel. And we're feeling it in Nigeria at the human level and also at the economic level. Yeah. Nigeria imports close to 1 trillion worth of goods, wheat, whitings, from Russia. That will be affected now. We import up to about $158 million worth of goods from Ukraine, apart from the fact that we have students out there. And that's another part where the minister didn't get it right. Do we even know the number of Nigerians who are in Ukraine? The minister was quoting one figure, he was quoting another figure. That's a sign of unseriousness. By now we should know, okay, is it 8,000 Nigerians we have in Ukraine? Is it 20,000 we have in Ukraine? The minister will say about, we think, it's about, we don't even know who and who is in Ukraine. Then we get the message in terms of the impact on families.
That's it.
So we need to get serious about some of these matters. So we are suffering in terms of damages in every direction. The economy, family relations, and so much collateral damage out there. But okay, I know we can put out, a diplomatic statement and say, oh, Russia, get out of Ukraine. But what power do we have in this matter?
Dr. Abati, very well said point about wheat. I was talking to a top baker yesterday, and he says price of pastries and bread will increase as a result of this.
But what is our wheat store? Lebanon has come out to say they only have 1 month reserve because most of their wheat imports comes from Russia. But so what's ours?
I'm not sure.
What's our reserve?
No, we
do we know?
We don't have close to a month's worth of reserves.
Okay.
So we're going to feel the heat. Price of pastries definitely might come up soon. But that's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have Rotu Sodiri, Adesola Moro, Erin Akejala to give us updates on Africa global business, COVID-19 spot activities. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rotu Sodiri is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. With regards to the ongoing case of stranded Nigerians in Ukraine, great reporting from Adefemi Akinsanya, Leila Johnson Salami. We have an update. We understand that, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, private sector is coming to the rescue, just like they did in the past. Air Peace, we understand Air Peace and Max Air have been deployed to possibly evacuate Nigerians from Ukraine. So we'll keep monitoring that situation to see how that goes. It would be great for the private sector to step up like they've done in the past with these xenophobia attacks in South Africa and so on and so forth to get Nigerians out of there. We move to federal allocations for the month of January. Federal allocations that a lot of states depend upon to meet their obligations. A number of civil servants in different states. It is at a 5-year low. There should be a chart on your screen now where federal allocations for the month of January have dropped to about 574.6 billion naira. This is down from 655 billion in 2018, January 2018. It did pop up in January 2020 to 716 billion, but it's been falling. Now, this is chiefly a result of the NMPC and the ongoing fuel issues that we've been seeing in the country, which have gotten really, really bad over the last couple of days. Awolowo Road, for instance, right now is so bad you can't even drive there as we speak. And of course, we had a report on that in Abuja, how bad the fuel scarcity is there. But anyway, that's fuel scarcity. NMPC didn't make any allocation to the federation accounts as a result of the fact that subsidies continue to the under recovery is increasing, and we know where crude oil prices are as we speak. So there's that issue that has caused, and so that's going to be a ripple effect on what the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee FAC now disburses to the rest of the nation. And so I don't know, this is something that I would like to pose to Labour, for instance. When Labour continues to argue for subsidies to continue, the effect of not being able to make these remittances to the Federation account and what that now means for what the states get, from there, and then what that now means for civil servants. So that's something to watch as we go forward. Back to the fuel scarcity matter, it's understood that ride-hailing companies Bolt and Uber have increased their prices over the last few days because of what's been going on. And I can personally attest to that because I use them. But other folks, anecdotal evidence from number of people that use these ride-hailing services can attest to the fact that prices on their apps have risen as a result of the fuel lines, lack of availability of fuel in parts of the country. And you can imagine what that impact has on the disposable income of people who don't have cars and rely on ride-hailing in order to move up and down. Still on fuel, to Sierra Leone. There you should see a tweet from a journalist by the name of Umaru Fofana. And his tweet says that Sierra Leone, he sent his tweet out yesterday, Sierra Leone has increased the pump price of fuel by 20% to a little over $1 a litre, citing global trends. Effective, well, it says tomorrow, that's today, March 1st, price of a litre of petrol or diesel fuel will be about 12,000, and it's Leones, that's Sierra Leone, the Leone is the currency, from 10,000. Now I checked, and there should be a screenshot, but before we get to the screenshot, let's get to the second tweet from a Sheka foreigner who says, the statement from Sierra Leone's Petroleum Regulatory Agency informing of the price increase says that the new set price of 12,000 leones, which is about $1.03 if you convert, about that 12,000 leones is about $1.03, is below the market price of 13,000. So which implies that either somebody is trading at a loss or that someone else is paying a subsidy. So I went to check. I mean, there should be a screenshot of the Petroleum Regulatory Agency, the PRA from Sierra Leone. At the bottom of the screen, you should see fuel oil price at 10,000 leones. So I guess it hasn't been updated. I was checking for a statement, but you've got two different people here, two different people in Sierra Leone attesting to the fact that that has been increased according to the PRA. I'll keep checking for that statement to put it out there. And then finally, MTN Group has become the first African company to buy virtual land. They've bought about 114 plots of land in a place called Umbutu Land. Umbutu Land is part of the Metaverse and is from a company called Africa Rare. It allows you to attend concerts, to buy art, to work. So you're seeing companies continue to make that foray into the Metaverse. It's going to be interesting to see how the adoption is. They didn't disclose how much they paid for the plots of land. So that's also a question I've always had about this whole matter of the Metaverse and non-fungible tokens is how you value these things. But very interesting from MTN Group.
That's the way of the world, Rotus. I mean, it's technology and it's going to blow our minds and change our minds forever. And kudos to the MTN Group for doing that. In fact, they're seeing into the future. I think it was our own, I forget her first name now, Obaik Banash, she's a filmmaker here. That made the first Nigerian NFT movie. I think I saw that interview while I was away. And it was a very powerful interview. No fungible token, the fact that you can just keep the rights to your movie, digital certificates, and anybody that wants to use it in any part of the world, they get to contact you and you get something for it. And that's the way the world is going, really. And Metaverse is going to shape things. It's going to explode. It's just another big mindset that is coming out. Because I think those tweets coming out of Sierra Leone, they're real tweets.
You're really excited.
And I'm excited about technology. Because I know those tweets coming out of Sierra Leone, Umar Fofana that I know, I think Umar Fofana, is he still with the BBC or he used to be with the BBC at some point? I think he's still with the BBC. So if Fofana makes that tweet...
I think he's independent. I checked his profile.
Yeah, okay, he's independent. But Umar Fofana for so long a time used to be with the BBC. So if Umar Fofana makes that tweet, then it is true. And it is just a reflection of what is happening in the world today. We can't deny the fact that crude oil price has gone up, and this will have a knock-on effect on economies all over the world. And this is happening in Sierra Leone as we speak. The sad thing is, Sierra Leone is still making that mistake. They're not having a free market float. They're subsidizing, which is still going to take some more money off the purse. The question we should ask is, how is Nigeria bracing up for this? Is this new oil price of $100 per barrel or over or less, have we accounted for it in the subsidy plan we have? Will the 3 trillion be able to cushion this effect? Let's ask ourselves those questions.
Can you invest in the Metaverse without using cryptocurrency? That's my question, because I'm not aware that you can. And we know the limitations on cryptocurrency in Nigeria. So does that mean Nigerians are going to be, late to the party or excluded entirely? This is what I want to know. Because you might say you don't necessarily want to follow, I don't know, celebrities in doing what celebrities do, which I don't. But a company like MTN making this kind of move does tend to lend more credence to the metaverse. But most people are locked out of that by CBN policies. How do you navigate that?
Okay. Yeah, so your entry point into the metaverse would be to invest in publicly traded companies that are there. So Meta, which is the parent, Facebook's new name, Meta is on there. Meta is a publicly traded company. MTN Group is a publicly traded company. So for now, you would only get exposure to...
What if you want to be a metaverse landowner?
Right, so you would buy... Right. So they use their own currency within, digital currency within the metaverse. So you would be able to purchase, so it's not crypto, it's the same technology, the blockchain technology as cryptocurrencies, but it's not the same thing. So you could purchase that using currency within that digital land. Okay,
Rotus, let's deal with some of the more immediate issues. You mentioned the point about, you know, the Minister of Foreign Affairs going to the National Assembly, and they talk about how to engage Airmax and Airpace. I hope that at the end of that conversation, that these two organizations will be paid for evacuating people out of you know, the conflict zone in Russia and Ukraine. And the whole point is that they are not running a Red Cross operation, because they make it look like a Red Cross operation. When they say, oh, we will engage with you know, Airpeace. Airpeace helped us out of South Africa. Airpeace will do it again this time, okay? Because part of that conversation is that it was pointed out that the president has made the necessary approvals. And of course, the Nigerian government waking up to its responsibility to protect its citizens, wherever they are, anywhere in the world, you know, under the framework of citizen diplomacy is something, you know, that I think is absolutely reasonable. The second point that came out of that conversation in the National Assembly was, you recall, that the House of Reps had, you know, directed the House Majority Leader and the Chairman of the House Foreign Relations Committee to be in Ukraine as of Friday last week. But Gbajabiamila, the Speaker, said, oh, they are still here because we discovered after the fact that the airport had been closed in Ukraine. Well, that's very interesting, but we understand what the circumstances are. Now, as regards fuel scarcity, you cited Uber and Bolt inside Nigeria, that the cost has gone up. Well, that's to be expected. In the face of the crisis in the world beyond COVID, and now with the Ukraine-Russian situation, one of the fallouts is rise in inflation globally. Nobody is kidding about that. Central banks are tightening their policies with implications for global trade, for supplies, and all of that. But I'm surprised that you are talking about Uber and other ride-hailing services. The kind of people that I relate with on a daily basis, they don't take Uber. They don't take whatever ride-hailing services are there. They are worried about how to move from one part of Nigeria to the other. And go and check. The cost of transportation from Lagos to Ibadan has gone up triple-fold in the last 2-3 weeks because of COVID, because of the global crisis that we face. I know you don't take public transport, but we relate with people who travel from Iseyin to Oyo, and they are shocked that inside Nigeria, to move around now has become a problem. Okay? It's not a fault of the local indicators, but it's a fault of the fact that we have all found ourselves at a moment in the world right now, whereby, you know, all of us are in this together, whether the fight is in Ukraine or is in whatever part of the world. And then you talked about petrol subsidy. Well, the Nigerian government is already saying $100 per barrel is not good. So should anybody be surprised that civil servants may not be paid? Should anybody be surprised that even the Minister of Labor is saying the university lecturers that are asking for money are not likely to get that money because the money is not coming from outer space. He is a product of global economics, of macroeconomics. So, you know, all of us in this community called the world, we are interconnected, and when things happen all the way to the lowest common denominator. So next time, don't bring the example of Uber and ride-hailing. Worry about what is happening in the taxi parks. In the
Doctor, it's uniform. It's uniform. It's public transportation all the way.
Well, I want to talk about what is immediate to you is remote to other people. And Dr. Bati, my children have been building me mansions on Minecraft for years, so I'm into the metaverse. I'm well into the metaverse.
You know,
Thank you very much.
We ordinary people, we talk about pepper soup joints, jollof joints. Those are the ones that are familiar to us. Not Metaverse, Miss Abiola.
I wrote this real quickly. I don't know if you're going to look at this story. We hear that in the fourth quarter, corporate taxes plunged, reduced big time. That's another one for our revenue. In the fourth quarter, corporate taxes really plunged. And we need to be
corporate income tax?
Yeah, corporate income tax. Yeah, really plunged.
Well, for 2020, yeah. Well, I know for 2020, I'll check for fiscal year 2021, but 2020 was bad.
All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. For updates on COVID-19 pandemic, Adesowa will join us, but that will be after a quick commercial break. We'll come back and we'll talk some more. For updates on COVID-19 pandemic, Adesowa Mora is here with us. Great to have you, Adesowa.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Tunu. And good morning, Dr. Bati, who relates with people at the PACs.
Adesowa. Shots fired.
Okay. That's supposed to be below the belt, right?
Shots fired.
No, it's not. It's not. It's just that Dr. Bati has friends everywhere, which is good.
He does.
He feels the pulse of the people. Mm-hmm. Yes, he feels the pulse of the people. Good morning, guys. So let's talk COVID-19 this morning, starting with the data as we normally would on this segment. Over 437 million infections have now been recorded, and over 5.9 million people have died from this virus since it was first reported, and over 10.5 billion vaccine doses have been administered globally. That's according to the Johns Hopkins University tally, which we rely on here on the COVID-19 update on the morning show here on the Rise News. Well, in Nigeria, in the past 24 hours, 35 new infections and no COVID-19 related deaths have been recorded in the country. The vaccine agency in Nigeria, the NPHCDA, says that there has been a 2% increase in the second dose uptake of COVID-19 vaccines. You remember that Nigeria is dealing with a high dropout rate of second dose. So people show up for their first doses and don't show up for their second doses, perhaps because of the reactions they get from the first dose, and they fear what might happen for the second dose. So there has been a dropout rate, but the NPHCDA says now there's an uptake. In the last week alone, there was 2% increase of those who showed up for their second dose. We do urge people to go show up for their second dose. It only makes sense when you show up to get fully vaccinated. You're better protected. And of course, the agency says Lagos continues to lead with the second dose update. It also has over 1 million eligible persons targeted, now fully vaccinated. That's the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak here in Nigeria. Away from Nigeria, India's civil aviation regulator on Monday extended the ban on scheduled international commercial flights till further order. At present, the third COVID-19 wave driven by the Omicron variant is receding in the country. India is recording about 17,000 COVID-19 cases a day, but it's banned international flights on the 23rd of March 2020 to curb infections coming into the country. Flight restrictions, however, were later eased under a bubble with several countries, such as Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Thailand. But it says at the moment is going to leave that ban in place. But evacuation flights from Ukraine for Indians continue, and a flight returned from arrived Mumbai carrying Indians from Romania who were fleeing the invasion in Ukraine. Well, new data from New York State officials show that the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is less effective in children age 5 to 11 than they are in adolescents and adults. The study was carried out during the Omicron surge, and the results revealed that vaccine effectiveness against hospitalization during that surge declined from 85% to 73% for children in age 12 to 17. However, for those who are age 5 to 11, effectiveness fell significantly from 100% to 48%. And when it came to effectiveness against testing positive, it declined from 66% to 51% among children's age 12 to 17. But when it came to the 5 to 11 age group again, it fell from 68% to 12%. Quite staggering, if you ask me. Well, scientists are saying perhaps it's the doses they are giving, because those age 5 to 11 were given 10 milligrams, unlike those 12 to 17 who got the same dose as adults. And finally, to the U.S., where fully vaccinated, staying in the U.S. rather, fully vaccinated White House employees starting today will no longer be required to wear a face mask or covering, including those who work in close proximity to President Joe Biden. However, other COVID-19 curbs such as regular testing and vaccination would remain in place. Back to you guys.
Okay, let's start with Pfizer-BioNTech. You will recall that when Pfizer made that proposal to the FDA, in the United States, the Federal Drugs Administration Agency, what we were told was that persons between 5 to 11 will not take the same dose as adults, that there will be a 10, was it a 10 milligrams lower, than what is provided for adults. And that perhaps may be what is responsible for the reduction in terms of efficiency that has been discovered between December and January, from about 70-something% efficiency down to 58% and lower. Okay, but what Pfizer has now told us is that they're conducting a study to see what is responsible for this. However, the 15 to 17-year-old bracket that takes the same, the 12 to 17-year-old bracket that takes the same 30, millimeters micrograms, with adults, and that are also entitled to take, booster shots. There has been no problem within that category. So what I see is that with regard to this immunization process, new lessons have been learned. Both the big pharma and the authorities are learning lessons and making adjustments with regard to those lessons. Now, as for India, you know that India is one of those countries very badly affected by COVID-19, the Delta variant and now the Omicron variant. And although, since March 2020, they had said, scheduled international passenger flights will no longer be allowed. You talked about a bubble with some countries. Okay, an exemption was also made for international cargo flights, because not to make an exemption for that would be to, further add to the supply crisis that many countries have faced. So India is now saying that we will extend it further. They tried to suspend it in December, but the Prime Minister Narendra Modi intervened, and now they say they will extend it further. But those exemptions still stand. So India is not yet at a place where you can say, like, New Zealand, like Austria, like Australia, that it will live with COVID. And it's just a case of a country that has gone through a very rough patch, taking necessary precautions. But there's a problem in Hong Kong. Hong Kong, 34,000 cases as at yesterday, 84 deaths. The morgues are overfilled, no hospital spaces. But at the same time, Hong Kong is now doing a 360-degree turn and saying, well, maybe we'll just live with this COVID. If you have COVID, you quarantine in your house, not in the hospital. So we keep seeing various measures being taken by countries. But what is real is that at the end of the day, all of us may just have to live with COVID.
I want to share the news that the white-gloved wonder, Queen Elizabeth II, has recovered from COVID, as we knew she would at this. Why didn't we just know that she would? And then drove herself to spend time with her family. I mean, she's awesome. She's a trained driver and a mechanic, to add to her list of accomplishments.
She's a trooper.
Yes.
I mean, I knew COVID can't bring her down.
Absolutely not.
She's seen wars. She's seen wars in her lifetime.
Exactly.
And she's gone through all of these things. She's seen family crisis. You know, she's lost a life partner in one lifetime. And I knew COVID was too small to bring her down.
Yeah,
And kudos, she's back on her feet. She's doing quite well. And like you said, Dr. Abati, we'll have to live with COVID. The first time it hit me that we'll have to live with COVID was when I got in the bus and I was traveling somewhere in Europe, and it was said that you could take off your mask. The mask mandate is over. You don't need to put your mask on in a public bus. And it just dawned on me, we'll have to live with this, one way or the other. And furthermore, when on the 11th of February, the UK lifted that mandate and said you don't even need a test, a COVID test, to come into the UK. So it just shows, and this is why we have to live with this. We have to treat it like what it is. But the pandemic and the virus is still real.
At some point.
Yeah, at some point.
Before you go, I don't want to accuse Tundu and Rufai of hagiography. I see that they love the Queen. Tundu doesn't, quibble about that. She says, "Oh, I love the Queen."
I do, and it's not hagiography.
Yes, but
she doesn't
I think what the Queen's example shows is that nobody is above COVID-19.
Yeah.
The COVID pandemic is not a respecter of persons, whether monarch or plebeian. But we wish the Queen very well.
Yeah. And I think what it shows, Dr. Abati, is that anybody can recover from COVID-19.
Well, that's the other side.
I'm going to convert you to my control.